Over the last few decades, there has been mounting research showing the ways in which singing is beneficial for those living with a range of conditions, including respiratory conditions, dementia, Parkinson's, and mental health concerns. Aligned with this research is the establishment of several Singing for Health groups run by expert practitioners who use a variety of techniques to support those living with such conditions. Indeed, in Scotland alone, there are over 90 different groups across the country, spread across the Highlands, Islands, Central Belt and borders, and new groups are regularly established in various localities.
However, it is not just the act of singing itself that is useful. For some people living with particular health conditions, the inherent well-being benefits of group singing can be hugely enhanced by the opportunity to sing with a bespoke group and to work with a leader who has been trained in how best to support people with specific conditions. Scotland's Singing for Health network unites practitioners, researchers and health professionals working in these health-related fields across Scotland.
In this series of 4 short videos, we would like to introduce you to a few of our expert practitioners who work with those living with respiratory conditions, dementia, Parkinson's, and mental health concerns, and allow them to showcase the techniques that they use to best support these individuals. We will also introduce you to some of the research that demonstrates why singing is useful in supporting those living with these specific health conditions. Finally, we will signpost you to where you can find out more about the research and where you can find a group in your area.
In this video, we will focus on dementia and how singing can help someone living with dementia. Dementia is a progressive condition that is currently affecting around 90,000 people living in Scotland. Symptoms include memory loss, difficulties in reasoning and communicating, personality changes, and a reduction in a person's ability to carry out everyday activities, which means they rely on others for their care. Research has shown that people living with dementia benefit from participating in group singing, including having positive impacts on well-being, mood, and elements of cognitive function. Carers also benefit from participating in the same group singing sessions. Indeed, in 2011, Paul Kamek, Caroline Williams and Frances Meaton found that their pilot study of the Singing Together group was a very positive experience for people with dementia and their carers. They concluded that the study has demonstrated the importance of considering the dyad of care partners in dementia care and the need to provide opportunities for people to do informal social activities together, which focus on the person with dementia's strengths rather than their weaknesses, and which support the relationship as well as promoting the well-being of both care partners. Sophie Lee, Desmond O'Neill and Hilary Moss in 2021 further asserted that an abundance of qualitative evidence similarly suggests that community singing groups can help people living with dementia and family carers accept and cope with diagnosis, positively impact their well-being, mood, and elements of cognitive function, ameliorate the caring relationship, and provide opportunities for social connection. More recently, Karen Stewart-Room, Imogen Clark and Felicity Baccarin in 2024 stated that live singing is recognised to ease care more so than pre-recorded music, a statement that demonstrates the importance of live, interactive singing rather than simply putting on the radio or other forms of pre-recorded music. In our 2022 podcast series, Sam Thompson, chairman of the Hamilton Musical Memories Group, reflected on how singing had allowed him to maintain a connection with his wife, Jean, who was living with dementia. There are dementia inclusive choirs and singing groups across Scotland, and there are also many community projects and social care providers who regularly include singing activities in their programmes. The Dementia Inclusive Singing Network is run by Luminate, Scotland's creative ageing organisation, to support these groups and activities. Their programme includes networking and training opportunities, as well as a range of resources, including new songs for groups to sing. Anne Gallacher, who is the director of Luminate, is here to tell us more about Luminate and the Dementia Inclusive Singing Network, and how they are supporting practitioners and those living with dementia.
Luminate is Scotland's creative ageing organisation. We were set up back in 2012, and we were set up because statistics in Scotland show that although our population is ageing, older people take part in the arts less as we get older. Our engagement drops. So Luminate was set up as a way of thinking about how we might change that, how we might encourage artists and arts organisations to think more about older people as audiences and participants, but also to encourage older people to think about engaging with the arts. We run a wide range of activities, training and development opportunities for artists, for example. We run projects in communities. And the Dementia Inclusive Singing Network is a really important strand of what we do. It was set up back in 2018. And it was set up to support the growing number of dementia inclusive singing groups and projects that exist across Scotland. There's a huge amount of research and a growing amount of research into the positive impact of singing on people living with dementia. Luminate's starting point is very much about people's right of access. So we are really keen to encourage and support people to become involved in singing opportunities or to stay involved in singing as they perhaps develop symptoms or have a diagnosis of dementia. We're really keen to support people to become involved. We're keen to support the people who lead those groups through training and networking and so on. So our work's quite wide-ranging, and the groups that we work with all tell us from their own experience as well as from the growing amount of research that they see the impact, the positive impact of group singing on the people in their groups day in, day out. There's a whole range of different impacts that we see. We see a growing amount of connectedness and sometimes remaining connected with the community. So often when somebody has a diagnosis of dementia, they sometimes can start to feel quite isolated from their community. Sometimes friends drop away, friends struggle to know how to support. So people can feel quite isolated. Continuing to sing in a choir or singing group that you've been a part of for years, or joining a new choir or singing group that may be focused on supporting people with dementia and their carers, can be a really important way of remaining connected or becoming connected again with new people. Some of the other evidence is showing us the impact on the brain. A growing amount of awareness of the importance of brain health and the impact that music and singing can have on that. There's evidence particularly around music that's familiar and the importance of staying connected with songs that you've sung when you were young, that you listened to, that you danced to, maybe you danced to at your wedding. Moments of significance in your life. We can see that connecting with the music from those moments of significance can have a positive impact on what's going on in somebody's brain. We also believe at Luminate that there's perhaps not quite enough attention paid to the fact that people can still learn new music and indeed benefit from and enjoy learning new music when they're living with dementia, just as anybody else might. So we're doing quite a lot of work around commissioning new songs for dementia singing groups so that there's a good range of songs out there that groups can sing with this added benefit of neuroplasticity in the brain from learning something new.
Since 2010, Scottish Opera have been running Memory Spinners, an innovative initiative that uses music, storytelling, movement and the visual arts to help people with dementia and their carers relax and get creative. Supported by the R.S. MacDonald Charitable Trust, Sylvia Ayton Charitable Trust, Bella Houston Bequests Fund, Trades House of Glasgow, Commonwealth Fund and Scottish Opera's Education Angels, it has become a fundamental part of Scottish Opera's education and outreach work. Here to tell us more is company stage manager Roseanne Gross, who has been involved with Memory Spinners for over a decade, and Matthew Brown, musical director of Scottish Opera's Memory Spinners.
So Memory Spinners started off, I think it's nearly 14 years ago, it's 13 or 14 years ago. I've been with it for about 12 years. It was originally a project that was developed between Alzheimer's Scotland and Scottish Opera, and it ran like that for 3 years, the first 3 years, with Alzheimer's Scotland helping to recruit for us and send people our way and advising Scottish Opera and the team on ways of working with people living with dementia, and Scottish Opera putting an artistic input into it and developing other wee strands to it where we weren't just concentrating on singing, we were also looking at some drama, we were looking at artwork, looking at making props, things like that on a week-to-week basis. That was our initial, our starting point. After 3 years, we, Scottish Opera and Alzheimer's Scotland, we remain very close, but Scottish Opera run the project independently now. We have, we've been in lots of places. We've run it in Glasgow, Edinburgh, North Lanarkshire, Dundee and St Andrews.
So the outline of a Memory Spinners project is it's quite a relaxed setting. So we either meet in, we're using the Woodside Halls at the moment, or the Scottish Opera Education Centre, and we meet for half an hour initially to just eat, which is really nice. So we sit around the table and we have some sandwiches and some cakes, and we share stories, and just as people wander in, and then we move into a slightly more, I mean, I say slightly more formal, not really, we're in just a very nice gentle space, usually in a big horseshoe shape, and we do a variety of different activities. As Roseanne mentioned, it's not just about singing, we also encourage them to dance, so we have a choreographer on the project. We have a lot of waltzing, because that's still very popular with that generation, but we do some choreographed dancing as well, which is hilarious and wonderful. We have an artist on the project as well, so at least 2 or 3 times across the 8-week block we have a bespoke art session where the participants will make props or scenery or just things that they can be used within the final sharing. And we also have a couple of singers from the opera who work with us, so it's really lovely to have them on hand at any given point. So if I'm teaching a song, I can use them to demonstrate that, but also they often share their own music with the participants, which is often one of the highlights of the afternoon, when you suddenly get people go, oh, this is wonderful. So and we've got a director, haven't we? Yes, we've got the amazing Audrey Blake, who directs the project, and she every block we not always, but we often take an opera as a starting point, and then we completely deconstruct it and use maybe a theme from it or a little bit of plot from it and put it back together as something completely different. And we've played around with the sort of physical setup of the space, haven't we, over the years, and we sort of arrived at one arc. Although it's quite wide, it's better because everybody's at the front, as it were. I mean, in terms of the musical delivery, a lot of it is actually quite similar. I mean, I work with a regular choir as well, and they have exactly the same issues with remembering things from one week to the next in some ways. So a lot of repetition, but I guess that the key difference with this group is no expectation of being able to read any music, of course, but also to remember any of the lyrics. So we project everything onto a screen, so that's always there throughout our sessions, but also throughout the sharing. The other thing is the choice of repertoire, and I mean, over the years we've been quite ambitious at times, and then at other times less so, and I think it's having that balance of something that's perhaps new or exciting to sing, which might be from the opera, it might not be, it depends on the opera. Love of Three Oranges, for example, we didn't do much from the opera. We just danced a bit to the march. But, you know, some of the more catchy ones like the Gilbert and Sullivans or Carmen, where they'll know the tune, then we will perhaps rewrite the lyrics so that we've got something that means something to them more lyrically, but has the tune of the opera. Or for G&S, it's obviously in English, so it's easier to do actually just what's there. But we also then fill in with lots of folk songs, some popular songs from, you know, the 30s, 40s, 50s, if you might say that, probably now 50s and 60s as well. So from the period of their youth, so that they are singing things that instantly they know that's a song, because as we all know, that's the memory that does stay for most people, that childhood memory. So we make sure that there's always songs that they will be really, really familiar with.
I think a lot of what we need to keep in mind on a week-to-week basis is somebody can come in one week and they can be incredibly animated and they can take part very fully, and the next week it could just be a blip and they're just not feeling it, and we're really set up to know that actually not everybody is going to want to take part in every bit equally, and some weeks you might come in and you might not want to sing, and it's absolutely fine to just sit there and listen. We've got a great team of staff. We're quite a large number of staff. We've normally got about 7 or 8 volunteers and Scottish Opera team members at each session. So we always have our staff peppered around the group. We all sit together, everybody takes part. The only person who isn't in the group is the person who's leading that section, whether it's a physical warm-up or a vocal warm-up. Everybody else sits in the group. We all do the warm-ups, we all sing, unfortunately in some cases. We all sing, and if somebody's maybe having a bit of an off day, we just buddy up with them, and if they've maybe come in with a partner or a brother or sister and they're not getting on that day, we just slide ourselves in and we take on that, and it sort of takes the pressure off that pairing as well. We encourage people to come with a friend or a family member. Part of what we're doing is trying to create new memories and a bit of joy, and somebody might leave the session and an hour later not really know what they were doing that hour, but they normally take the mood with them, and we get the feedback that actually they were maybe a bit down when they come in, but for the rest of that night they've been happy and they've been singing away to things, and that's a big part of what we're doing. We're sort of trying to help create memories for people, which is also part of our sharing at the end. It's about saying to your friends and family, come in and see what we've done, and this is joyous.
This is a very brief overview of the research and work that is currently taking place on singing for dementia. Scotland's Singing for Health Network website provides much more information on the existing research, as well as a map to the various groups operating up and down the country, training courses available for practitioners, and links to our podcast series where we interview organisations, researchers and practitioners who discuss the practice and research related to singing for health in more depth. Our work is ongoing and we have so much more to share, so please get in touch with us if you would like to know more. Our website address is on screen.